It was just dawn, and there were already a bunch of people in front of the iron bars in Zisher village, chattering about something. Lin Tie squatted in the corner of the Sur, pounding a piece of iron blank in sweat, but he could not knock out the shape of it. He gritted his teeth, the iron in his hands was getting heavier and heavier, and his ears were filled with the sarcasm of the villagers. "Hey, Lin Tie, you're fighting like a dog, and you still want to sell money? Go for a dream." A loud voice of Han Zi put his waist on his waist, his face full of ridicule. "That's right, there are so many iron craftsmen in the ironstone village. Why are you so wasteful? You can't even beat a thigh, you should have a stomach full of weight." A thin monkey-like man next to him followed, which made people laugh around. Lin Tie lowered his head, his face was red, and the iron in his hand was almost unstable. He was filled with anger in his heart, and he couldn't say anything. These people said it was right. He was indeed the worst iron craftsman in the village. Don't say that he could not make any farm tools well, and his sun was almost closed and he could not even get enough food. What are you laughing at? If you have the ability, come and try it. Lin Tie couldn't help it, and suddenly stood up and stared at the group of villagers who were watching the hottest. But as soon as he said this, his laughter became even louder. "Yeah, isn't you convinced? Come here, let's see what real skills are." At this time, a big and thick man came out of the crowd. It was Wang Daju, the boss of another iron craftsman in the village. He was full of flesh and was carrying a big knife just made on his shoulder. The cold light on the blade was obvious, and it was not an ordinary person. Wang Daqing walked to Lin Tie and grinned, "Lin Tie, not everyone in our village can handle it. You are not worthy of wiping the knives with me. Otherwise, kneel down and knock me on one's head, and I will accept you as an apprentice, and teach you two hands. What if you do?" As soon as this came out, the people around him laughed even more, and some people shouted, "Knock! Knock!" Lin Tie shook his body with anger and his fists were clenched, but he knew that he was not Wang Daqiu's opponent at all. This guy is not only good at hand but also a famous tycoon in the village. Whoever messes with him will not have any good results. "Wang Daqiu, don't bully others," Lin Tie said, gritting his teeth, but there was a sense of silence in the sound. "Bullying you? Ah, what's wrong with me? If you have the ability, you can shoot a knife like this. Don't be fooled by others." Wang Daqing sneered and inserted the big knife in his hand to the ground. The blade didn't penetrate half of the ground, which made the surrounding people start to be amazed. Lin Tie looked at the knife and felt like he was stabbed by a knife in his heart. Since he was a child, he dreamed of being a top-notch iron craftsman and creating a magic weapon that could be famous in the world, but in fact, he couldn't even make a similar iron snippet. He lowered his head and looked at his old hand, feeling unwilling to accept it, so he could only turn around silently, pack up his tools, and prepare for the rest of his family. "Waste is waste, you should roll out of the ironstone village as soon as possible." Wang Dafeng's mocking voice was still behind him. Lin Hai tied his teeth and left without looking back. After leaving the village, Lin Zi walked towards the back mountain alone. He was filled with anger and planned to go to the mountain to cut some firewood, so he was calm and quiet. The back mountain is a barren mountain near Zisher village. There are no people coming here, but it can make him feel at ease. He carried a broken axe and walked up the mountain along the path, his mouth was still sneering, "Wang Dafeng, please wait for me. One day, I will make you kneel down and beg me. I will fight out the world's #1 magic sword, so that you can see the lowly guys with their mouths." He kicked the stone on the road with one foot, and suddenly heard a dong sound, as if he had kicked something hard. Lin Tie was stunned and looked down. A corner of the broken book leather was exposed under the stone, like a very old book. "What's the matter?" Lin Tie squatted down curiously and dug out the book from the soil. The cover of the book was almost gone, and a few words could be seen on it, "The Secret Scroll of the Sky." He flipped it open with no idea about patterns and words, such as the magic gates about the sculpts, as well as various strange materials and oral styles. "What is this? The scripts book?" Lin Tie muttered. Although he couldn't understand it, an inexplicable excitement suddenly surged in his heart. He has been an iron craftsman for many years and has never seen such a thing. Maybe this is a treasure. He was about to look more carefully, but a sudden buzzing sound in his brain, as if something was blowing up. Then, a strange memory rushed into his brain, as if someone had directly stuffed a book into his brain. His eyes turned dark and almost passed. When he opened his eyes again, there was already a lot of knowledge about drama in his brain. 9 methods of the sky calming, the magical sculpting, the secret of quenching. Lin Tie murmured, his eyes getting bigger and bigger. This is a golden finger. Ah! I made it! Lin Tai was so excited that his hands were shaking. He finally understood that this broken book was not an ordinary thing at all, but the legendary sword-casting secret manual from the Jianghu. With this, would he still be afraid of not being able to forge good swords? Would he still be afraid of being stepped on by Wang the Hammer? He couldn't wait and hugged the book as he ran down the mountain, and on the way, he even picked up a piece of iron ore, preparing to go home and test just how powerful this god-level sword-casting technique really was. After returning to the shop, he didn't bother to eat, directly lit the furnace fire, and threw the iron ore into it to burn. According to the method in the secret scroll, first use the samadhi true fire to refine it, then use the 9 turns hammering method to shape it. Lin Tai muttered in his mouth, his mind full of the things he had just learned. The iron hammer in his hands seemed to come alive, with each strike carrying a strange rhythm, and the furnace fire burned exceptionally vigorously. After several hours, a long sword with a completely black body finally came out of the furnace. Although the sword body looked unremarkable, it faintly emitted a chilling light. Lin Tai casually swung it, and the stone table nearby actually made a crack sound and was directly split in half. Holy shit! This is way too awesome. Lin Tai was stunned himself. He had never thought that he could forge such a sharp sword. With one swing, not to mention stones, even iron could be cut. He looked at the sword in his hand, and the anger in his heart suddenly ignited. He thought of Wang the Hammer's mockery, the villagers' disdainful looks, and the humiliations he had suffered over the years. Since heaven had given him this opportunity, he had to make these people know who was the most badass blacksmith in Ironstone Village. Early the next morning, Lin Tai carried the newly forged long sword and went directly to the village square. Wang the Hammer was showing off his new knife with a few lackeys in the square, and as soon as he saw Lin Tai coming, he immediately sneered, "Yo, the loser is here again? Still not giving up? Want to embarrass yourself again?" As soon as the surrounding people saw there was excitement, they immediately crowded over, pointing and discussing. Lin Tai didn't waste words. Directly stuck the long sword into the ground, looked up at Wang the Hammer, "Surname Wang, you called me a loser yesterday, today I want to show you who the real loser is." "Ha ha, just with you?" Wang the Hammer laughed until tears almost came out. "Your crappy sword isn't even as good as my knife, and you dare to challenge me? Not as good? Then let's test it." Lin Tai snorted coldly, pulled out the long sword, and pointed it at Wang the Hammer. "You're so cocky, aren't you? Dare to compete swords with me? Whoever's weapon breaks, kneels and calls the other dad." As soon as these words came out, the whole scene exploded. The villagers widened their eyes, not expecting that Lin Tai, this loser, would dare to challenge Wang the Hammer. It was simply asking for death. Wang the Hammer was also stunned, then immediately furious. "Good. Today I'll let you know what it means to know your place." Saying that, he raised his big knife and hacked fiercely at Lin Tai's long sword. Lin Tai didn't dodge or evade, gripped the long sword and met it head-on. The two weapons collided heavily, only to hear a bang loud noise, and Wang the Hammer's big knife actually broke directly into 2 pieces, while Lin Tai's long sword didn't even have a notch. The whole scene was dead silent, everyone was dumbfounded. Wang the Hammer looked at the broken knife in his hand, his face instantly turned pale, and he stammered, This is impossible. My knife was made with top-quality black iron. Ah. Black iron is shit." Zhang Bo walked over, patted Lin Tai's shoulder, and said in a low voice, "Xiao Qi, your sword is not simple. It seems that what kind of tricks do you have? But I have to remind you that when this sword is released, the Ironstone Village will be uneasy. There are many people in the world who are staring at the magic weapon. Lin Zi was stunned and his heart skipped a beat. What does Zhang Bo mean? What trouble has his sword attracted? Lin Ji heard Zhang Bo's words, his heart tightened, and his hand holding the dark sword in his hand couldn't help but tighten it a little. He glanced around him. The villagers were still talking privately, with surprise and jealous eyes, but the hidden pressure made him feel less agitated. Brother Zhang, what do you mean? Why is my sword not simple? Lin Zisho softened his voice and asked in front of Zhang Bo. Zhang Bo smiled and slammed his head, walked towards the small path outside the village with a cane, and walked along the way. Little Iron, the rivers and lakes are deep, not a place you can walk with just one sword. Your sword is too full and the slightest dew will cause trouble. Come with me, let's find a peaceful place to talk. Although Lin Ji was full of doubts, he still respected Zhang Bo from the bottom of his heart. He clicked a little, followed behind with a sword, and the two left the village one by one, and came to a remote forest in the back mountain. Uncle Zhang, don't sell Guanzi, what's going on? Lin Zi couldn't help asking, staring at Uncle Zhang with his eyes curled up. Zhang Bo sat down after looking for a stone head, slowly took out a broken wine gourd from the ground, took a sip and opened his mouth. Xiao Zi, do you know why there are so many iron craftsmen in the Ironstone village? It's not that our villagers are born to fire iron, but there is a sky-fire mine hidden under this piece of ground, which produces materials that can drive magic weapons. Is your sword probably using the essence of that mine? Lin Ji was stunned and recalled the iron mine he had picked up. It was indeed different from ordinary iron mines. When the fire burned, it was blue. He clicked, yes. I used the mines from the back mountain, what's wrong? Hey, this is the problem. Zhang Bo slapped his thighs, his eyes becoming more serious. Tianhua mining is a good thing, but it is also a sting. How many doors in the world have Senai read, especially the Blood Knife Gate? They have been investigating the whereabouts of Tianhua mining over the years. Once you have this sword, your breath will be so irritated. People from the Blood Knife Gate will soon come to the door. Blood Sword Gate? Lin Jie's eyebrows burst out, and his name was filled with murderous aura. What kind of power is that? Is it very awesome? Oh? Humph, the Blood Sword Gate is not an ordinary one. It is one or two of the malicious powers in the world. The Blood Sword Ghost is even more cruel and ruthless. They are specializing in magic weapons, and they are still searching for various secret techniques for sculpting. The sword in your hand and the ancient scroll. Zhang Bo said this, his eyes were blunt and stared at Lin Chia. Xiao Chia, do you say that you have any unsimple inheritance? Lin Tie was shocked. He didn't expect that Zhang Bo's eyes were so poisonous, even the ancient scrolls could guess. He hesitated for a moment, and still pointed, Bo Zhang, I have indeed compiled this book, called The Secret Scroll of Heavenly Sauce. This drama was made according to the method in the book. Zhang Bo heard it, was silent for a moment, and then the eldest son said, sure enough. I have heard of the famous master of this secret scroll. It is said that it is the treasure left by the ancient drama master, which can allow people to create an invincible magic weapon in the world. But this thing is also a potato of burning hands. The owner of the Blood Sword Gate has been looking for the whereabouts of this secret scroll over the years. If he knew that it was in your hands, the Ironstone village would suffer with it. Lin Ji felt aroused in his heart and touched the secret scroll in his hand. He gritted his teeth and said, what should I do? Can you tell me that I will keep hiding? Hide? I can't hide. Zhang Bo snorted coldly, the world is not a place where you can hide if you want. You only have one way now, becoming stronger. It's so strong that the blood sword door dares not move you. However, if you rely on this sword alone, you have to take a step further and practice the drama to the extreme. Are you going further? Lin Qi's eyes lit up, and he went over, Bo Zhang, do you have a way to teach me? Zhang Bo grinned, stood up, took out a piece of black stone from it, and threw it to Lin Ji. This is the mysterious iron essence that the old man made in the world when he was young. It is so hard that ordinary iron craftsmen can't melt it even. If you can use the 9 methods of Tianqi to turn it into a sculpt, I will teach you a set of spirit-tempting methods, so that your sculpt will not only be powerful, but also can achieve spiritual power. Tongling? Lin Ji was so excited that his blood was boiling. After receiving the mysterious iron essence, his hands were shaking. He looked down and saw that the stone was indeed hard and there was no trace on the surface, so he couldn't even knock it with the iron. "Brother Zhang, don't worry, I can do it." Lin Ji gritted his teeth, his eyes full of struggle. At this moment, a rapid horsehoof sound suddenly came from a distance, accompanied by a few rough shouts, "Search!" Lin Ji and Zhang Bo looked at each other and their faces changed. Zhang Bo said in a low voice, "No, it's the person from the Blood Sword Gate. He's coming so fast. Xiao Zi, you hide first, I'll go and delay." "Hide? Why do you hide?" Lin Ji gritted his teeth and tightened his sword. "Brother Zhang, they are looking for me, how can you always be so angry? Come and I will cut one, and come and I will cut one for two." Zhang Bo wanted to say something, but looking at Lin Chi's stubborn eyes, he could only smile bitterly. "Good boy, there is a kind of thing. But remember, don't fight hard, and you won't be afraid of losing firewood if you keep the Green Mountains." As the voice fell, several Hanzis in blood-red robes had already penetrated into the forest. A scarred face in the head was full of breath. He held a big knife with a blood-carried sword in his hand. After sneering, he sneered, "Hey, old man, there is also a little boy. You just got that sarcastic spirit? Hand over the magic sword and don't die." Lin Tie felt nervous, but he didn't expect that the other party would come here so soon. He snorted coldly, stood in front of Zhang Bo, and the longsword said, "Wanna snatch my sword? Ask the guy in my hand first if he answers." Scar was stunned and immediately laughed. "Yeah, the little boy is quite crazy. I am the third master of the Blood Sword Gate. People in the martial arts world are called Blood Wolf. No matter how bad your sword is, you can't hold me back. Brothers, give it to me and wipe him out." Several subordinates, Lima, rushed over, and rushed straight to Lin Ji with a flash of sword light. Lin Ji didn't say anything. When the long sword slammed, the sword was as angry as a rainbow. He directly slashed the two gangs in front and hit the tree and vomited blood on the spot. "Boke, this guy is a little bit." Scar's face changed, and he didn't expect Lin Chi to be so fierce as soon as he made a move. He gritted his teeth and stomped his feet, lifted his sword and rushed forward. The sword technique was fierce, and each knife was filled with a broken voice, forcing Lin Ji to retreat. "Boy, die!" Scar's face slashed, and the sword's air directly cut a deep slash on the ground. Lin Ji gritted his teeth and held it hard. The long sword and his opponent's big knife collided with each other, making a harsh sound of golden iron, and his arms were numb. Bo Zhang said it right. "I can't fight hard. I have to find a way to take it off." Lin Jizi quickly turned around. Taking advantage of the gap when the other party was holding the knife, he suddenly pointed to the chest of Scar's face. "Looking for death?" Scar roared angrily, dodging from the tip of the sword on one side, and kicked Lin Chi's lower abdomen with one foot. Lin Chia reacted slowly, and he was forced to get a foot in his arms. He took the force and quickly got up and ran towards Lin Zishan. "Want to run?" "No door!" Scar sneered, holding several subordinates and chasing them. Lin Ji ran and slammed, thinking about the countermeasures in his mind. At this moment, a beautiful figure suddenly flashed in front of him, and the sound was as crisp as a bell. "Hey, who are you? Why are you chased like this?" Lin Yong looked closely and found that the person came was a young woman, wearing a light green dress, beautiful eyebrows and eyes, and a delicate short sword on her waist. She looked at Lin Chi curiously, with a playful look in her eyes. "Who are you? Don't walk, open quickly." Lin Ji was sweating profusely, and the screams of scarred faces from behind were getting closer and closer. The woman was calm and smiled. "My name is Su Wan'er. When I saw you being chased by this place, why didn't you know you at all? I'm kinda help you." "Help me?" Lin Ji was stunned. Without reacting, Su Wan'er had pulled out the short sword and faced the blood sword door chasing everyone. Her body movements were sporty and her swords were tricked. In 3 or 2, several of her men were busy and furious, and even her scar faces were browsing. "Yee, where's the little girl who dares to care about our blood knife door's leisure?" Scar snorted coldly and took Su Wan'er straight. "Don't worry about you. My aunt just doesn't care about you bullying others." Su Wan'er whined and said without letting go. Lin Ji was stunned. This little girl looked at Roru and weak. How could she fight? He gritted his teeth and also pulled the sword up. The two of them joined forces and forced the Scarface to retreat. "Humph, today you are very happy, I won't play with you anymore." Scar's face was not good, and he made a ruthless sentence, turned around and ran away with his subordinates, and there was no sign in the blink of an eye. Lin Chi panted heavily and turned to look at Su Wan'er. "Thank you, I would have been a little troubled if it weren't for you." "Why are you so bad?" Su Wan'er put away the short drama and hummed, "Mrs. from the Su family." "What is this skill?" "But you, the sword in your hand is not simple. It's hard to blame the people from the Blood Sword Gate to chase after him." Lin Tie was shocked, and he didn't expect that this girl's vision was so poisonous. He was about to explain, but Su Wan'er slammed his hand. "Don't be nervous, I'm not here to rob you. The Blood Knife Gate has been doing so many years, and I've long seen them be disgusted. If you trust me, what would happen if we walked together?" Lin Jishio hesitated for a moment, remembering the depth of the rivers and lakes that Zhang Bo said, and he still pointed. "Okay, that'll bother you." As the two were talking, a low smile suddenly came from far away. The 3 Lords of Blood Knife is indeed a waste, and even a little boy can't handle it. But it doesn't matter, this magic sword will still have to fall into our hands." Lin Ju and Su Wan'er turned around at the same time, only seeing a man in black robe walking out of Lin Zishan. His breath was cold, holding a long sword in his hand, staring at the sword in Lin Ju's hand, radiating a greedy light. Lin Dao's heart tightened, holding Chang Yan's hand trembled slightly, and his eyes were staring at the man in black robe. The other party's atmosphere was too strong. Just standing there made people breathless. The long-skinned sword in his hand emitted a strong smell of blood, as if it had just come out of the sea of blood. "This guy is definitely much stronger than that Scarface just now." Lin Ji gritted his teeth, and his brain flew quickly, looking for a way to take off his body. Su Wan'er also raised her eyebrows and said to Lin Ji in a low voice, "Be careful, this person may be a master of the Blood Sword Gate. His breath is so cold, and it is probably because the door owner is out. We may not be able to beat him together. Let's think of a way to delay the time first." "Drag time?" "Drag a lot," Lin Ji said in a low voice, his eyes firmly unmatched. "If he really wants my sword, he can't hide it no matter how long he drags it. Why not fight?" The man in black robe sneered and approached slowly. His voice was as low as he was coming from the ground. "Little boy, you're pretty stupid. Just now my family can't take you, but now I'm here, do you think you can still run away? Hand over the magical drama and that secret scroll, I can leave you all." "All corpses? I'm not dead yet." Lin Chi gritted his teeth and cut off the long sword, and directly pulled out the battle stand. "If you want to kill my things, please ask if the sword in my hand first." Su Wan'er saw the situation and didn't say much. She trembled and stood on the side of Lin Hun. The two of them showed a joint fight, and the air was not overwhelmed. Overestimate one's own abilities. A trace of disdain flashed in the black-robed man's eyes. The long sword in his hand suddenly slapped, and a blood-colored sword rushed straight, as if it could cut everything, and it was coming with a pungent and fishy wind. "Hide!" Su Wan'er shouted softly, and flashed his body, and pulled Lin Chi to the side. The knife wiped their bodies and directly split a tree as thick as a bowl in 2.5, with the cut as smooth as if it had been cut by a sharp blade. Lin Dao's heart slit, and the power of this knife was more than 10 times stronger than the Scarface just now. He knew that fighting hard would definitely not work. A sudden thought flashed in his brain. Lima said to Su Wan'er in a low voice, "You hold him up for a while. I have a way, but it takes some time." Su Wan'er was stunned. Although she didn't know what medicine Lin Jiu sold, she still pointed, "Okay, I'll hold him as much as possible, you can hurry up. After saying that, she moved, and the short sword brought a cold light, which took the man in black robe directly. Her tricks were scheming, forcing the other party to lift the knife. Taking advantage of this gap, Lin Tie quickly stepped back a few steps, took out the mysterious iron sperm that Zhang Bo gave him from him, and a harsh look flashed in his eyes. Fight! If you want to die, you have to turn the plate. Lin Tie tied his teeth and quickly recalled the 9-turning method and the secret of quenching in the secret scroll of the sky. He knew that the only chance now was to create a stronger magic weapon on sight, otherwise he and Su Wan'er could not escape. He took out a small piece of Tianhua mineral that was carrying it from his body, bit his finger, and dripped a drop of blood on the mine, enchanted the mouth in the secret scroll in his mouth, turn the fire with blood, temper the spirit with the heart, turn 9 into soldiers, break the sky and beat the sky. As the sound fell, the sky fire mine actually ignited a group of blue flames, which was so hot that the air around it was distorted. Lin Tie was not in a hurry, so he directly inserted the mysterious iron essence into the flame, grabbed a large stone as a temporary iron, and began to knock it wildly. Ding! 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 As each gust went down, the sparks were 4 times, and the mysterious iron essence melted slowly in the flames, revealing a strange light. Lin Tie was sweating profusely, his brain was full of techniques and secret scrolls, and each song was carrying a strange rhythm, as if he was sharing the same bird with the heaven and earth. On the other side, Su Wan'er had fought with the man in black for more than 10 tricks. Although her body skills were clever and her swords were not bad, she still retreated in front of the other party's inverted power, and a bloody spike from the corner of her mouth. Stupid girl, looking for death. The man in black robe shouted angrily, and the long sword slammed Su Wan'er's short sword so hard that he could fly out. The man also stumbled back a few steps, his face turned pale. Wan'er! Lin Tie shouted, his heart as anxious as if it was burning, and his movements in his hands were a little faster. He knew that Su Wan'er had not been delayed for long, and he must complete this drama before the other party killed him. Boy, do you still want to play with flowers? The man in black robe snorted coldly, his eyes swept towards Lin Tie. He realized that he was knocking and beating. Lima knew that he was not in opposition. Go to the gun? I want to see what you can make. Speaking, he forced Su Wan'er to retreat with a knife, turned around and rushed towards Lin Tie. The sword was as angry as a rainbow, pointing directly to Lin Tie's back. Oh no! Su Wan'er gritted her teeth, unable to see the pain on her body, and suddenly slapped over, and forced her to knock Lin hair on her shoulder. She was rubbed by the knife's arms, and the blood instantly dyed her sleeves. Wan'er, you're fine. Lin Qiong's eyes roared, and he supported her, wishing he could just push up and fight the man in black robe now. Don't worry about me, hurry up and get your sword. Su Wan'er gritted her teeth, reluctantly smiled, and urged. Lin Dao felt a little sore in his heart. He turned around and continued to beat him. The anger in his eyes was almost sprayed out. The movement in his hand was getting faster and faster. The mysterious iron essence in the flame had gradually formed. A long sword embryo that was erected through the blue body was visible. A faint light flowed on the sword, like a living thing. The last one, success is here. Lin Tie growled, concentrated his strength on his arm, and smashed it down suddenly. He heard a buzzing sound, and the flames suddenly went out, and a long sword filled with cold light appeared in his hand. This sword is like blue crystal, and the sword is thin and has no match for the sharpness. With a swipe of his hand, the air is cut open, making a harsh and broken sound. Lin Tie held the sword and felt an unprecedented force coming from the sword, as if he was in touch with him, and his entire human energy rose several times. The master of blood sword, right? I'll let you see what a real magic weapon is. Lin Tie stood up suddenly, and Chang Jian pointed, his eyes as cold as a knife. The man in black robe, also known as the owner of the blood sword gate, narrowed his eyes slightly, and he could clearly feel the extraordinary nature of this sword. He sneered, little boy, you have created a broken sword at a time, and you also want to challenge me? I want to see, you have a few pounds. Speaking, he moved, and the long sword of the ape brought a bloodlight and slashed the iron face. Lin Ji refused to avoid it, and the blue light sword raised and rushed forward. Bang! The swords collided, and a dazzling spark burst out, and the powerful impact waves shook the trees around them. A piece of silk directly broke through the earth under Lin Zi's foot, but he did not take a step back. The blue light sword in his hand burst into low birds, and the sword was as angry as a rainbow, which shocked the blood sword gate to retreat 2 steps. What? The lord of the blood sword gate's face changed, and he finally saw shock in his eyes. He didn't expect that Lin Ji, a little boy, could take over his full force, and it seemed that he had enough game blades. Old guy, it's my turn. Lin Fei grinned, and a warring intention ignited in his eyes. The blue light sword snatched, and the sword was as angry as a dragon, and he rolled directly towards chairman of the blood sword gate. The owner of the blood knife gate gritted his teeth and held it hard. The long sword of the ape slashed out one after another. The sword air collided with the sword air, making a series of explosions. But his sword's breath clearly showed a slight decline, and he was forced to retreat by Lin Hai's sword, and his arms were even slightly numb. This kid, how could this sword be so powerful? The owner of the blood sword gate felt cold in his heart, and finally realized that he underestimated Lin Ji. He roared angrily, and his sword technique suddenly became even more ruthless. As if he was desperate, he forced himself to break through the sword and approached Lin Zi. Wan'er, then. Lin Ji glanced at Su Wan'er still in place, and gently slapped the dark longsword that had just been sent to her. He held the blue longsword tightly and met the owner of the blood sword. Su Wan'er took over the drama, with a flash of surprise in her eyes, and Lima joined the battle. The two of them joined forces, and the drama was so angry that they forced the blood sword master to make trouble. A blood mark on his body was also drawn by Lin Hai's blue light sword, which was covered in blood. Ah! Little boy, I remember you. The blood sword master covered his wound and roared angrily. He didn't dare to fight again. He slashed a retreat with a sudden knife, fled, and disappeared deep into the forest in the blink of an eye. Lin Ji panted heavily, and his hands holding blue Guanglong's sword were still shaking slightly. That battle almost exhausted all his strength. He turned to look at Su Wan'er, seeing that although she was injured, she could still stand, and she felt relieved. Hey, you guy, is so good. Even the master of the blood sword gate can get it, awesome. Su Wan'er wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, smiled reluctantly, her eyes full of admiration. Lin Ji grinned and wanted to say something, but suddenly he heard a rapid pace coming from afar, as if someone was heading towards him. He glanced at the forehead and said in a low voice, "No, the people in the blood knife gate may have some help, so we have to go away." Su Wan'er clicked the head, and the two of them supported each other and quickly retreated to the other end of the forest. But they didn't notice that, not far behind, a pair of cold eyes were staring at their backs, with a heavy reluctance and murder. Lin Ji and Su Wan'er limped through the dense forest, and the voices around their ears were still filled with intimate shouting from afar. They all knew in their hearts that although the lord of the blood knife gate was injured and ran away, this matter would never be the case. Lin Ji held the blue light in his hand tightly. The flowing light on the sword made his heart a little calmer, but the wound on Su Wan'er's arm was still bleeding, making his eyebrows tight. "Wan, find a place to rest first. Take care of your injuries." Lin Ji stopped and glanced around him. He found that there was a hidden cave nowhere. Lima helped her walk. Su Wan'er gritted her teeth and reluctantly smiled. "Little injuries, no trouble. Your sword is really bad. Even the owner of the blood sword gate has eaten the phone." "Hey, I'm not in vain." Lin Ji glared at her without any hesitation, tore off a piece of cloth from her body, and helped her to simply wrap the wound. He said in a low voice, "Don't be strong, the old man from the blood knife gate is not dead, and he will definitely come to find trouble later. I have to take care of the wound and think about what to do." As he was speaking, a heavy footstep sound suddenly came from outside the cave entrance, accompanied by a low smile. Little boy, he runs very fast, but unfortunately, he still can't escape my palm." Lin Dao's heart tightened and he suddenly stood up. The blue light long sword stood in front of him, staring at the entrance of the cave. Sure enough, the figure of the blood sword master appeared slowly. Although he was injured, his aura was still strong. The long agitated sword in his hand was still dripping with blood, and his eyes were as cold as a poisonous snake. "Honey guy, you're really in vain." Lin Tie gritted his teeth and cut in front of Su Wan'er's face, and his brain flew to calculate the countermeasures. The blood sword master sneered and approached quickly. "Baby, I admit that you have some skills, and that sword is even more precious. Unfortunately, you don't want to leave today. I may be able to make you die happily after handing over the magical drama and secret scroll." "Do a dream!" Lin Tie shouted angrily, and just wanted to push him forward and fight to the death. Su Wan'er grabbed his arm and said in a low voice, "Don't you move, he's hurt. Let's drag it, maybe there will be a turnaround. Don't you still have to participate in the martial arts conference? You can't fall here." Lin Tie was stunned and remembered the martial arts fair that Zhang Bo once mentioned. It was the most top event in the world. Yunji, a master of the world, could become famous there. Not only could it wash away the humiliation of the past, but it would also make the blood sword door dare to provoke him again. He gritted his teeth, suppressed the flames in his heart, and said coldly to the owner of the Blood Knife Gate, "Her brother, do you want to kill me? Okay, I'll see you at the martial arts conference. By then, I'll make you not even have to wear even your pants." The master of the blood sword gate was stunned and immediately laughed. "Good boy. The martial arts fair? I'm waiting for you there, but I hope you don't die halfway. But, remember this account today." After saying that, he didn't take action anymore, turned around and disappeared in the forest, leaving behind a cold smile. Lin Tie relaxed his voice and turned to look at Su Wan'er. Seeing her face turn pale, Lima helped her sit down and said in a low voice, "This old guy probably is afraid of fighting hard, so he withdraws first. We have to be very nervous. The martial arts fair is not something you can do." Su Wan'er clicked a little, and her eyes flashed with a certainty. "Okay, I'll accompany you. I've been unable to see the help of the Blood Knife Gate for a long time. Let's give them a look together." In the next few days, Lin Tie and Su Wan'er found a remote village to temporarily fall into their feet, and they were injured and prepared. Lin Tie took advantage of this period to study the secret scroll of the heavenly roll, combined with the Zhang Bo cult's spirit tempering method, and decided to create a true supreme divine sword. He continued day and night, and the fire was burning and the iron in his hand was knocking to the sky. Finally, on the eve of the martial arts conference, the mysterious iron essence and the essence of the Tianhua mineral were integrated into a long sword that was connected with gold and blue, called Tianli. As soon as the sword was released, the world seemed to be shocked. The coldness scattered on the sword made people dare not approach it. Lin Tie waved his hand and the huge rock in the yard was split into 2.5, and the incision was smooth like a lens. He held the sky break, and a feeling of self-confidence surged in his heart, and murmured in a low voice, "Honey guy, I want you to look good this time." The Wulin conference arrived as scheduled. The venue was set on the Tianli mountain in the Jianghu, the sacred land. People were dying on the top of the mountain. Experts from all over the world gathered together, and the air was filled with a heavy smell of fire. Lin Tie and Su Wan'er were dressed in a simple manner and mixed in a low voice among the crowd, but the sky crack in his hand could not hide the brilliance, which attracted many people's attention. "Who is this kid? Why do that drama look so unsimple?" A big cheek was slapped in a low voice, with greed in his eyes. "Humph, I guess it's another ignorant boy who dares to show his face here. He will look good as he does." A dilapidated old man sneered, obviously not taking Lin Tie seriously. Lin Tie heard these comments, his mouth slightly raised, and he didn't talk, but just waited silently for the competition to begin. Su Wan'er stood beside him and said in a short voice, "Don't pay attention to these people and let them shut up with their strength." Soon, the conference officially began. The host was an old man in white robe. He announced the rules with a loud voice. "Today's martial arts conference aims to select the world's #1 master. Weapons and martial arts can be compared. Those who will win the title of supreme and become famous in the world. Who dares to come to power in the first stage? As soon as the voice fell, the audience exploded. Several experts who thought they were capable jumped onto the ring, and the sword came and the fight was in full swing. Lin Tie looked coldly at the sight of him. Although these people were not weak, they were not worth mentioning in his eyes. At this moment, a red figure suddenly rushed onto the ring, and it was the owner of the Blood Sword Gate. He held a long knife and was fierce. After watching the whole scene, he sneered, "A group of wastelands dares to compete for the best in the world? I am here today to let you know what a real strong man is. And that little boy Lin Z, who will bring me out." The whole scene was quiet, and everyone turned to look at Lin Wei, with curiosity and mockery in their eyes. Lin Dao sneered in his heart, patted Su Wan's hand, and said in a low voice, "Let's see what you want." After saying that, he walked onto the ring with great strides. As soon as the sky crack in his hand came out, Lima was shocked. This drama, this momentum. It's definitely a magic weapon. Someone in the audience couldn't help but shout, his eyes straightened. The owner of the Blood Sword Gate raised his eyes and stared at the sky rift, and his greedy look in his eyes became even more intense. "Little boy, he really has some ability. But today, I'm going to make up for the sword. Do you want to settle? Ask me if I answer first." Lin Ji snorted coldly, and pointed at the long sword. His vigor was as strong as a rainbow, and his silk was not given to the other party at all. The competition officially began, and the owner of the Blood Sword door took the lead. The long sword of the Agri brought a fishy wind and slashed the forest iron surface. The sword was so strong that the stone slabs on the ring were shattered. Lin Tie was calm and raised the sky cracked, and the sword was as angry as a dragon. He slashed the sword into 2.5. His body was flashing behind him, and the sword pointed directly into the other party's chest. So fast. Everyone in the audience was shocked. Unexpectedly, Lin Ji was so arrogant as soon as he took action. The main face of the Blood Knife Gate changed and he hurriedly hid, but he was still rubbed by the sword's shoulders, and the blood instantly dyed his clothes. He roared angrily, and his sword technique became even more fierce, and his moves were fatal, as if he was desperate. But Lin Ji became more and more braver the more he fought. The sky split was like a living thing in his hands. Every sword was carrying a mighty battle, forcing the Blood Sword Gate to retreat. "Old guy, your treacherous ends here." Lin Ji shouted softly, the cold light flashed in his eyes, and the sky split suddenly burst out from his hand. The sword was as angry as a rainbow, and it directly shattered the long sword of the Blood Sword Master, without reducing its strength, hitting the other party's chest. Puff! The blood knife door sprayed a mouthful of blood, and its body flew out of the ring like a windbreaker, hitting the ground hard, with disbelief in his eyes. This is impossible. How could I send you this little boy?" The whole scene was dead and everyone was stunned. The Lord of the Blood Sword Gate, the notorious tyrant in the world, was actually defeated by an unknown young man? This is simply a fish in the sky. Lin Tie put away the sky crack and coldly watched the whole scene. His voice was not loud and he was full of power. Who else is not convinced? Stand out and try. Everyone in the audience was talking about each other. Those masters who had ridiculed him were now standing down and even breathless. The host, the old man in white robe, came back to the stage and quickly came to announce, "Lin Ji is invincible. No one dares to challenge this battle anymore. Lin Ji is the world's #1 sci-fi master in the supreme martial arts world." As soon as this happened, a shocking cry broke out across the scene. Some shouted Lin Ji is invincible, while others were shocked the god of swords. Lin Tie felt a happy heart. The humiliation he suffered over the years was finally gone today. He turned to look at Su Wan'er in the audience, and saw her smiling brightly, with awesomeness in her eyes. Lin Tie walked off the ring, came to her side, and said in a low voice, "Wan'er, we won. In the future, no one in the world will dare to underestimate me again." Su Wan'er pointed her head lightly, held his hand, and said softly, "Lin Tie, from today on, you will be the real #1 in the world. From now on, I will accompany you wherever you go." Lin Tie's heart warmed and he grinned, "Okay. let's join us, we will be the smirking and proud world. At the same time, under the foot of the mountain, a group of villagers from the Ironstone village heard about the Lin Tie village and came to watch the battle. Wang Daju, who was in charge, had a blue face. When he first mocked Lin Jihuang in Wuchai, he was in sight. Now he could only lower his head and murmured, "Lin Jihuang, you guy, you really turned over." Lin Ji glanced at Wang Daqing and others, and sneered, "Who said I was a waste? Look now, who is the real waste? Kneel down and knock me to the head and recognize me." Wang Dajun gritted his teeth and his face was red, but under Lin Zi's storm, he finally knelt down and said in a low voice, "Lin Zi, I'm wrong. It's my dog's eyes that look down on others. You don't care about villains, please give me." When other villagers saw this, they even knelt down and kept calling for a gift. Lin Ji snorted coldly and said, "Come on, I dare to talk again in the future. I will chop you with one blow." Everyone was as if they were amnesty, and they hurriedly got up and ran away in shame. Lin Ji looked at their backs, and the last frustration in his heart disappeared. He turned around and pulled Su Wan'er away from Tianli Mountain, his back was pulled down the sun. "Lin Ji, where are you going next?" Su Wan'er asked with a smile. Lin Ji looked at the sky far away and grinned, "The world is so big, let's go for a walk. No matter what kind of faction he is or a master, if you dare to cause trouble, I will solve it in one fell swoop. From now on, let's talk about this world." Su Wan'er smiled lightly, clicked a little, and the two walked shoulder to shoulder, gradually disappeared on the mountain road. From this day on, a legend has been circulated in the world. Lin Wei, the world's #1 drama master, was swaying the supreme divine drama Sky Rift, and his red confidant Su Wan'er was smiling and proud of the storm, and no one could win.